How many of you have heard of string of pearls, or for that matter, the diamond necklace? Well, string of pearls was a strategy that China adopted to try and contain India, and India responded by diamond necklace. And the latest in this is what you are seeing as the IMEC, India, Middle East, European Corridor. And now, of course, with the Hamas conflict, this thing has been put on the back burner. But if you look at what has been happening in Maldives in the last few days, it has got to go back to the supremacy in the Indian Ocean, which both India and China are trying to jockey for and make sure the other one doesn't get too far ahead. Now, we know that Maldives has been under the influence of China because of what they did when Abdul Yamin or Yasmin, I don't remember the exact name, he was the president. And in 2018, he got dethroned by someone who is a supporter of Muhammad Nasheed, who himself, Abdullah Yamin had said that he had a lot of cases against him. So Muhammad Nasheed was taking refuge in Sri Lanka, and he put up another candidate from his party. His party is more inclined towards India. So that what you're seeing now is a battle of proxies between two leaders, both of whom one is in jail and the other one is in exile. And what you're seeing playing out in Maldives is just basically arm wrestling back and forth. What the whole thing started about wanting India out of Maldives is a well-published, well-planned propaganda allegedly by the leading newspaper in Maldives called the Maldivian Journal. It's got a native version also, and about 70% of the people in Maldives are supposed to read this. And that one had turned pro-China and carefully planted stories there, basically pointed the finger at India trying to assert itself in Maldives. The truth couldn't be anything different than that. The truth is something else. Anytime China executes a project in a different country, it not only sends the equipment, but also sends its own labor. So the local populace doesn't see any upside. I've said this thing many times before. And the same thing happened when under Abdullah Yamin, Maldives gave a lot of projects to the Chinese companies, and they brought their own labor, and the local population was disturbed that none of the well-paying jobs were going to them. Then, of course, Yamin goes and Nasheed's candidate becomes the president. And then when Indian companies start executing projects, the difference is that India uses local talent, local labor to execute the project. Of course, it will still bring his equipment in. Now, what has happened is because of these people not being in power, and also for the fact that they could manipulate the Maldivian Journal, they have been planting this venom in the minds of the Maldivian people about India. So what you are seeing now is essentially how the media manages our mind. And this will take some time to break, but I will not be surprised if India springs a surprise on its own. By the way, how did India get involved in Maldives? Very interesting story. In 1988, a Maldivian businessman wanted to overthrow the then president Abdul Gayoom. And he was based in Sri Lanka, and he had essentially outsourced the job of throwing the government in Maldives to a rebel terrorist group in Elam, fighting for Elam, PLOTE, People's Liberation Organization for Tamil Elam. So about 200, 300 people, or maybe 800, it doesn't matter, hundreds. They landed in Mauritius. They took over the presidential palace, but at that time the president was not there. He was in some other place. So he managed to ride out the storm, and the Maldivian government reached out to many countries, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and United States, United Kingdom. Finally, United Kingdom suggested, look, none of us can come to your help. Why don't you contact India? And then they contacted India, and India moved in, and within 9 hours they sent troops down there. They restored order, restored the presidency, and after that I think there was some sort of an agreement whereby India would be advising on the national security issues of Maldives. So clearly India has a listening post in Maldives. Let's not make any bones about it. So India has been trying to counter the influence of China by doing this. Not only has this happened, in India has, I think you've probably heard DGF 438, where Sridharji explained to this in some detail, that India has a 1-year agreement with Sri Lanka now, whereby Sri Lanka will not allow any Chinese vessel to dock at any of the ports in Sri Lanka. Of course, Hambantota is their own. It's a 99-year lease. You can't stop them there. But at least it's limited the scope of what China can do on the high seas from Sri Lanka. So India has also moved in to help Nepal, and also this, Sitama and Ram Mandir, all these things, and Nepal being a Hindu kingdom, that's also re-established the bonhomie that existed for thousands of years between Nepal and India. So Nepal is now beginning to come closer to India. So India is slowly but steadily countering the influence of China in the region, especially now with also Sheikh Hasina coming back to power. And you should hear Utsav Chakrabarti, where there's an interesting situation in Bangladesh. Both China and India wanted Sheikh Hasina to win, and that's what has happened. So that is the draw. But also India is now facing problems of refugees coming in from Myanmar because of what is going on there. Whatever it is, these are all regional games played by two big powers, India and China, and eventually I think India will prevail because it is a democracy. There is free-flowing ideas, and I'm sure that's what usually leads to victory. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.